How shall we start this?
Do we not start every podcast with like, hi, I'm Helen Tudor and this is the Ideal Client Attraction Podcast, or not? You can have that. Done. We're rocking and rolling. Let's go. Yeah, it's good. Anyway, right.
Right.
Hi.
Episode 8.
Yes.
We will be checking that you've done your homework from episode 7, audience.
Of
So
course.
please make sure you've done that. However, if this is the first episode that you've discovered this podcast, where have you been? And we'll let you off the homework from episode 7. And please share with your friends. They will love it. Today, we're going to be talking about the emotional roller coaster of being a business owner, freelancer, solopreneur, all those kind of things that you could be. And I'm looking at Helen now and I'm seeing her face and thinking, there's been a hell of a roller coaster. So let's start the ride. Helen, tell us about what the emotional roller coaster is, and are you going to be able to get through this and give some examples of how it's affected you
Without crying.
I
think
but
so.
hopefully if you cry, let's
good
see the laughter and the joy as well from the high bits.
It's an emotional roller coaster. I don't really want to just talk about the downs because I think some of the highs are incredible.
Yeah, let's do both.
Yeah, but some of the downs are like it's just hard, you know. It is the life that you choose. So you kind of got to take it ups and downs, right? But
The
some of
night
it's
out, you have to
hard.
accept the hangover. Like
Yeah.
it's those days when you wake up with a hangover. If you don't drink, smart people, like those days, some days you wake up with a hangover and think, oh, was it really worth it? I feel like death. Other days you wake up and you just think,
That was worth every
that was
minute.
so worth, that is worth every minute I'm losing from today for
Yes.
last night.
Yeah.
And that is often the case, isn't it? Like with the business roller coaster, it's terrifying, it's fast, throws you all around. But when you get off and you're like, oh, let's do it again.
Yes, exactly. And it's, for me anyway, personally, it's not even a choice that I make. It is literally so addictive and so mesmerizing and so important in my life that there is no choice for me. There's the opposite of not being in business just feels like death, right? That's a bold statement that I wasn't expecting to say.
But this is something that I questioned because earlier on in one of the episodes,
episode
you mentioned retirement.
in
And
10
I was
years.
just like, really?
Yeah, okay, right, well.
Really? And then when you say something like it feels like death, that is why I think you might retire from your machine
Yes.
type business. I think you might, but I think retirement for you, because it would feel like death, as you've just said, would probably end up being, and this is just a prediction, I think it's going to be more like books.
Yeah.
I think you'll just end up banging out a couple of bestsellers.
Or doing podcasts. I mean, this
that's what I mean.
doesn't feel like work.
No, absolutely. You might just move into that like publishing,
Just chatting to my mates or
the publishing side of things and stuff.
Well, we don't know where it'll end up, but the highs are really high and the lows are really low. There's very few days in business where nothing happens. So it's very unpredictable and that's what's very exciting. So that's why you've got to go into it understanding that, you don't go into business if you like a quiet life.
No.
If you like things to feel steady, you go into business because it's a game. We talked about the snakes and ladders, right? Earlier on.
Yeah.
It's a game and you play, but you can't have the good without the bad.
Yeah.
So let's start with something really obvious, I think, particularly in the online space, is that when you get successful in the online space, whatever that looks, talked about what that looks like, getting your tag game on and all the rest of it. People are horrible to you. Like, people are really nasty to other people online.
Yeah.
They say mean things.
Yeah.
They say things about you that aren't even true, but they make assumptions about you, and they say things about you and your work that are really hurtful.
Yeah.
And when I first got into the online space, I was in the agency world before, and the agency world was kind of bitchy and backstabby and gossipy and politics, right?
But you're hiding behind the agency name a little bit.
But you're hiding behind the name, and we were sort of all in it together. So, it was kind of, we were all kind of scrapping it out for the same sort of clients and things like that. So there was a lot of competition, but it was all kind of what I call in the real world. So you'd meet people face to face. So people wouldn't say anything horrible.
But also it's agency versus agency, isn't it?
Yeah.
As opposed to random stranger that is making like assumptions and comments.
Yeah. So when
you.
when I sort of came onto the scene, like I exploded onto the scene, I'm sure, for a lot of people because I didn't know how to play the game. So I just played the game full out. So I did all the things a million miles an hour, all the things that I teach, right? So as soon as I saw the opportunity, I was like, wow. And I just fell in love with the online world. I fell in love with this. I was thrilled to bits with it. I couldn't wait to be a part of it. I was just every bit of the, the bullshit online bingo, I was calling house. Do you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was doing guest experts. Right, I'm going to do hundreds of guest experts. I'm being in groups. I'm going to be in loads of groups. I'm going to be doing hundreds of comments every day. I'm going to be posting all day, every day. Like, I just loved it. I was like, this is amazing. I want to, and this is hand on heart. I was so excited that the way that I use LinkedIn worked for other people, surprised and excited, that I couldn't wait to tell everybody. And that is genuine.
Yeah.
I was like, I really wanted to take this knowledge that I had to the world for free as well as to get paid for it. And it's the same with my ideal client work. The work is the important bit, not me, and not me making money from it. The important bit is the work. And I was so passionate about getting the word out that I absolutely just went for it. And I wanted to tell as many people as possible in as many different ways as possible. And what I think what might have happened from the outside, in fact, I know this happened because people have said this to me since, is that you just came from nowhere. You just were so much, you were a lot. You were too much. You know what I mean? You were just everywhere all at once. You were just really so passionate about this thing, but it was just you wouldn't stop going on about it. Everywhere I went, there you were. You were just posting all the time. You were in every group I was in. You were showing up all the time. As you were, everywhere I went, you were. And this is what someone said to me, and it just massively triggered me. And I just thought, you're really annoying. And he said, and I told everyone I thought you were annoying. And I told everyone in the groups we were in that I thought you were annoying. And I had nothing but horrible things to say about you. And he told me all this as he came back 5 years later with an apology,
Well, at least he did.
He did. And he said, I'm really sorry. He said, you triggered me massively. I was in a really bad place and I was horrible about you and to other people about you, right? And I want to say sorry. And, if I'm up in Warrington, I'd love to, take you out for lunch, say sorry. And it was really funny because I didn't even know any of this. I'd not even really noticed. Yeah. And I was just like, I haven't got a problem with you, mate. If you want to go for dinner, great. Free lunch. And we had Italian food and we had a lovely time. Nice. And I'm always, if anyone else has been upset by me in the past and wants to buy me lunch.
I'm happy to be insulted if you apologise with lunch. Preferably don't take 5 years.
But no. And we're still friends now. And I really respect him for that. Yeah. But it's really interesting seeing how I made other people feel.
Yeah. And I wonder what work, and I'd like you to ask him privately so we can share it publicly, what work he had done that somehow 5 years later that was still bothering him.
So I think what he actually said was, he said, I basically thought you'd just come out of nowhere and you'd disappear, and you haven't. And the more I've watched you and the more I've followed you, even though you were annoying me, the more I've seen you are exactly who you say you are. You're still as passionate about it now as you were then. And you've had loads of success, and and I think you've done really well. And I'm still exactly where I was.
I think that is something.
And I've had a really bad time, and I've really struggled. I've had stuff going on personally. I've stuff going on in my business. I've really struggled, and I wasn't able to put myself out there the way you were. And he joined my program, and and he's in my program still, and we're big supporters of each other online. I'd never name him. I just think he should be really proud of himself that he was man enough to actually be that self-aware. But it was interesting for me to see it from his point of view. And it explains a lot really of why I did get a big backlash. And I was really annoying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I was perfect. I was annoying. I was bold. I was bolshy. But the reason why I was so much in the beginning was because I was so insecure about my working.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to work. I wanted it to work. I wanted as many people as I could to work, but I didn't have the confidence and the certainty and the evidence that I have now. So I was very much new kid on the block, really annoying.
Yeah, I would say that's something that I can relate to, where he's coming from. Not necessarily the insults and stuff like that, because I just swear and moan about people privately and just be like, oh, a bit of a penis. And, because one, generally that stuff always comes back to bite you, doesn't it? But
Well,
two, it is amazing the people you think, oh, you're just doing this for this reason, that's where you're at. And then 5 years later, 6 years later, they're there. They're stratospherically where you wish you'd got to, where you would have done it, or you've questioned the level of showing up. And you were annoying. Like it was just not in a personal level of annoying, but it's like, Ellen's banging on about LinkedIn again.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. But you know what else? It was quite triggering and you come up in a conversation between myself and Michael Little when we're discussing our own little businesses and stuff, and we're like, we've got to be more Helen. Like, you think how often she was saying, here's what I do, here's how you buy it, here's what I do, here's how you buy it, delivering value. There's a reason. We can quite clearly, if you look at that timeline, you can quite clearly see we're here. There's a reason why we're here and not here. And the people that are here are people that are doing the kind of things Helen was doing, and yes, it might have been like trying to cut through a door with a butter knife. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't necessarily scalpel and surgical the way you were doing it.
Yeah, there was no finesse.
You get someone with like a strategy brain person say, oh, it should be more finesse and stuff.
Yeah.
But the brute force, like it worked, and the commitment to it and stuff. And you should be as passionate. And I think that's the other thing. In discussions I've had with people, not just on like your success, trying to go, okay, what's worked, what hasn't worked? Why have they done it and not? You've got to truly believe, like you said, to be as annoying as you would be in, we're talking about it all the time, you have to truly believe in it, because otherwise you can't keep going.
Well, you can't maintain it.
No, you can't maintain it. If you're just doing it because you want to make sales, because that's the thing, it wanes. And I'll tell you something, there are people that were as annoying as you, if not more annoying than you, that have been experts in crypto, AI, God knows what else. And, they still use your headline writing technique. And I kind of want to go, there's a thing on the internet called Wayback Machine, where you can put a URL in and it takes screenshots of how it was. I would kind of love to go back through their LinkedIn bios or their Facebook profile things. And it's got like Facebook ads expert, thinking organically, group expert, and stuff. So I think that there is often, and a lesson there is, one of the roller coasters is longevity. Your longevity will outlast someone's hate. Like normally. And
it's not just him. There's been plenty of people over the years. But I think the emotional roller coaster here is that it does affect me. And people, I think, maybe look from the outside and think, oh, Helen's not bothered. Because what I used to do is I used to fight with people online. And a lot of people know me from those days. And it was actually quite...
You used to win quite a few of them.
Yeah, I used to win most of them. But I used to win most of the arguments because I wouldn't give up. And I would never back down. Yeah. I was bullied at school.
Yeah.
And when I felt like I was being bullied online, I stood up for myself every step of the way. And from the outside, so Davina used to whisper in their ear when they come out the Big Brother house. Yeah. Like, it's just panto.
Yeah.
From the outside, it's just panto, right? Because the people loved it. And people would message me. People who loved the drama would message me, oh, yeah, I've seen you, giving what for, and blah, 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 blah. But what you don't see is the other side of that, is that when someone puts a comment online and I then go and defend myself, and then bear in mind, they would always come to me. I never went out looking for a fight, but they'd come to me and I would fight them. Yeah. And then I'd reply, and then they'd reply, and then I'd reply. Well, what people don't see is in between that, I'm trying to feed my kids. Yeah. I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to get about my day. Yeah. And my adrenals, the adrenaline in my body is spiked all day because I'm thinking, just need to get these kids fed and I'm going to go and see what he's written or see what she's written. Yeah,
overthinking what you've said. Or should I have said this?
And then I'd think about it obsessively. I'd wake up in the night thinking about the argument. I'd try and justify it. I'd post about it passive aggressively. And then people would be like, come to me and be soothing me like, oh yeah, they're just jealous. They're just this, they're just that, they're just that. And you know what? It was just a perpetual cycle of drama and negativity that made me feel so unhappy.
The thing is as well, it's, as you say, like all of those things, because I've had run-ins with people online and stuff, and it's not nice.
It's horrible.
And you were quite often attacked. That is the reality of it. And I see it across a lot of people. Do you know what's interesting? Is the way I see it, and it might be different, I see a lot more women attacking women.
Yeah.
Than men attacking men, because it's quite easy. Because I had someone attack me and I went, I see you're attending that conference. I'm going to be there as well. If you really think all that about me, have the balls to come and say it to my face. He went, are you threatening me? I went, no. I just said, I will respect you more if you come and tell me everything you think about me to my face.
I think people whip themselves up into a frenzy, and I've been whipped into a frenzy myself, and I've done things. I've got to say, I've done and said things that I massively regret.
But you
that
can't.
I'm definitely not proud of. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, and people would just come in. I just feel like the emotions was so powerful that it made me act and behave in a way that is not aligned with who I am, for sure.
So someone described it to me like when they were trying to teach me how to react better, you know, because I got help for, you know, like my fight or flight, like going into fight quite quickly,
fight or flight,
thinking about it. If I let something go, thinking, do they think they've won? Is everyone going to do that? And I did a lot of work with a guy called Neil Jordan, who's brilliant. It was brilliant for me, especially, and he was kind of like describing it like, the trouble is in the online space, it's not like you and someone else falling out on a quiet street. There's just two of you. So if you decide not to have a fight, no one ever knows it. The two of you didn't have a fight.
Yeah.
It's the fact there's two of you that were squared up to each other and there's 200 people watching.
Oh, yeah.
So if one of you backs down and goes, oh, actually, I was wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. Or I wrote that last night when I was in a bad mood. I shouldn't have written it.
Or I had a glass of wine in my case, usually.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, because it's kind of like this show. So it's kind of like,
it's a show. That's what I mean. It's panto.
I've dug a hole and now I'm in it. And then there was be the side taking and then,
but this is what I'm saying though, sorry, about the drama and the politics. People love it.
Yeah, they love it.
And I love it. I love watching other people having big fallouts online because I'm just a bad person and I can't help myself. I don't get involved anymore, but I still watch it. I'm still watching the sidelines.
There wouldn't be any reality TV.
It's reality TV.
If we didn't love it. But
so everyone's got to be a villain. And
the thing is as well, it's like, there is a skill, like it shouldn't happen, right? People shouldn't do it and people shouldn't get personal. Right? People shouldn't get personal with it. People shouldn't attack personal traits and make, the comments about how you're marketing your business become personal. Yeah. And I do think as soon as someone needs to attack the way you dress, the way you do something about how you look, or like everything, they've lost the argument from an intellectual point of view. If they're just saying like, Helen posts too much, it's really annoying from an, I find this, and it's like it's really easy unemotionally to go, well, I'll do it my way.
Well, exactly.
You do it your way.
And that's
it's not about Helen and it's not about that. It's about your posting strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the emotional roller coasters of business is people will cross the line. People will make your posting strategy or the way you're marketing your business something that gives them the right to then comment about you, like, or this, or I wouldn't be doing that if I had kids, or I wouldn't be doing that. Like, oh, she thinks everybody, because she keeps mentioning her kids in her post. Like, I'm not saying you did, but like people are like, she's just playing the sympathy card and stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, actually, I'm trying to relate. I'm trying to say like, hey, I've got 6 kids and I've still turned up. And so people will use a tactic that you're doing that they don't like. They will use it as an open door to put the boot in, and they are wrong in doing so. The other thing is as well, people will flock to your inbox and say, oh, they're assholes and stuff like that. But no one, even mutual friends, but they'll stay mutual friends with the other person, even though they know people do that. That's what's always amazed me, that there'll be people that will watch these things, watch these people repeatedly do that to people, and you go, well, why are you still friends with them? And I did say to someone once, well, have you gone into their inbox and said, I think the comments you made about John were a bit wrong? Have you, I don't
want to get involved.
I don't think, I'm not, but you can say, I don't want to get involved.
It is school, it's very
but actually, I think you took it a bit too far. Like, I get that's your opinion, but maybe stop commenting tonight, and like, just don't reply tonight. Sit on it and see whether you still really want to make that comment in the morning. There's not enough of that. There's not enough like calm heads, because everybody's just sort of like, forget that it's actually real people. And the one thing I'd say is tactical. So one of the big roller coasters that we're saying that happens in business, one of the big ups and downs, and we'll go on to the up of that in next, and that's the next question, is you are opening yourself up for online bullying and trolling and stuff like that. Maybe not bullying because it's not necessarily always relentless and someone attacking you all the time, and that can get
but
far
just
worse.
other people's opinions, right? Which is one of my taglines, right? Other opinions are available, but
they're wrong.
but they're wrong.
Yeah.
Which is a way of sort of passive aggressively sort of saying they're wrong. But you're right. I wouldn't say bullying. It just felt bullying. I don't say it is bullying. It feels like bullying.
But if you've been bullied,
and it felt very unfair and triggering to me because
Absolutely,
I was like, I'm a good person here trying to help people, and I don't understand why people are getting so upset about it.
But if you've been bullied, it does feel the same. And what I would say as well is it's the same with cancelling people, like in a sense. And, because as you see a lot of that these days, that's just more bullying in another sense. It's kind of like they've said something I don't like about one certain thing, so no one should listen on there. And you see people attacked for their viewpoint. There's loads of stuff going on in the world right now, right, which doesn't need to be discussed on this podcast at all. But there's loads of stuff I have viewpoints on, right? I've realised that despite my viewpoints being right, a lot of people would disagree with them. And like some people go, oh, you should just say everything you think. I was like, no. Literally, as a person,
you don't need to comment on everything.
Really, everything I think is not for the global consumption of the world because I have the ability, right? I'm even friends with Arsenal supporters.
I know, right? Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Even married to a Liverpool fan.
I know Man U fans that are friends with Man City fans. Some people have that ability to kind of go, I accept that you support the wrong team and you think Declan Rice is actually useful, but you're wrong. And like move on, and you find the bits in the middle.
Yeah.
But one of the things you have to accept on the online world is like part of the roller coaster is like everything you've learned about human interaction and human decency and how people would treat you to your face. Those rules do not apply on the online space. So let's take that same roller coaster. So that's a down.
Yeah.
Or that's the negative side of it. Let's go for the whoosh pit.
Yeah.
I've seen you have so many bubbles blown up your ass online. It's
so much love.
Bubbles, right? And that's the thing. And it's like you are taking that drug of people hating you for doing it. You're only getting that if you're getting people, oh, Helen's so good at LinkedIn, she's a god. And like we mentioned earlier, there was a phone call, right? We're going to re-bring it into this podcast episode. It was in an earlier podcast episode.
Right. Yeah.
This to me is one of the biggest ups of being an internet celebrity and making things and posting it. So this lady, the story's about, was mates with the Queen. She's got an MBE.
Yeah.
Tell us that story again, just succinctly, because I think it fits into one of the ups.
It does, because it's probably about that same time, to be honest.
You had someone bullying you or someone being nasty.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, you get this phone call. Tell us about it.
So it was I'd say it was in that same period really where I was getting a lot of drama and there was a lot of stuff going on and I was feeling very vulnerable and very exposed and very every day I go on there and I'd, look at my comments and there'd be a lot of good and there'd be a lot of bad, right? But there was a lot of comments, there was a lot of notifications every day. And because I was putting out a lot of content and I was doing I was having a lot of activity, if that makes sense. And then I was walking down the canal, which John says is the most northern thing ever. So I was walking down the canal to the pub over the cobbles.
Walking the ferrets.
With my pint of bitter. And a Facebook Messenger call from Shah Wasmond, who I knew of, obviously, but I wouldn't have expected a phone call from her in a million years. And her opening gambit, which, Shah, I know what she's like, we're friends now. She was like, just wanted to say well done. It's like, hello? I was thinking the wrong number. And she said, yeah, I've just asked about LinkedIn in my group and you've had more tags than I've ever seen anyone get and you're not even in the group. She said, it's like unheard of. She said, your marketing must be absolutely spot on. So I just wanted to say well done for that. And also, can you come and do a guest expert about LinkedIn in our group?
Yeah, and I think...
I've got another brilliant voice note from Shah, actually, which is like... But this is maybe only a few months ago. She's like, right, I've finally taken your advice. I'm now on LinkedIn and I'm getting these amazing results. And why didn't you tell me about this sooner?
It's just like, knowing Shah, not overly well, but having known Shah for a matter of years, you probably did tell her.
Oh yeah, over and over again.
But Shah has so much stuff going on in her head and so many things that are happening that she probably just sat there one day and had space for it to go, oh, Helen told me I should do that, in like 1979.
She's smashing it on LinkedIn. She's getting some really good leads on LinkedIn for something else for another one of her businesses. But yeah, that was like a real up moment where you feel like you've got validation. And that's quite interesting because all the people that were hating on me online were either, what would say, at my level or below. Let's use that as a sort of terminology.
Not in humanity, in income.
Yeah, not in humanity.
Just to clarify people, Helen doesn't think she's better than other humans.
No. But like at that level of business, right? Either experience or revenue or whatever it might be, that sort of level or below. Like my peers and the people in my groups, the communities, and the free communities. And then you've got Shah, who in my opinion is, way up here.
Like 4 best-selling books.
MBE.
Mates with you.
She's not been on Dragon's Den yet, we don't know. But anyway, so absolutely incredible, celebrity of the online space, ringing me to tell me how great my marketing was. And that really gave me real validation that what I was doing was working and was respected by people whose opinion I respect. And we went on to be, I could ring her now, we're like, we've been friends. But interesting, that friendship then caused more problems of people who aren't friends with her, who then see that. So there's a bit of that.
The tribalism is
intense,
It is ridiculous.
I don't want to go on about it because I don't talk about it. I don't post about it really because I don't want to feed the fire.
The point of this podcast.
Yeah, that was a big up for me.
Putting yourself out there gets you the recognition. Yeah. It gets you the bubbles blown up your ass. It gets you all those people tagging you in a group. It gets you a phone call from someone that can really move and shake and
open doors
really open doors for you. And it's a really nice pat on the back for someone that's really successful to say, I really like what you're doing. I thought that was good. Even if it's a like or comment of your post of, I love the way you phrase this. Yeah. I've heard that a couple of times. I like the way you phrase that. I thought, I've explained that really easily. That was, that feels really good.
Yeah.
To everything. So, and I think that's powerful, but that is a roller coaster moment. Yeah. You're going to get people that are going to make it personal, which it shouldn't be personal ever. If you want to attack someone because you don't like the way they're doing their business, tell them you don't like the way they're doing their business. And also the world doesn't need to know that you don't like the way they're doing their business.
Also, why do you need to tell people you don't like the way they're doing business? I don't like the way loads of people do business,
going,
don't tell them.
I'm leaving the group, I don't like it. Well, bye. Shut the door on your way out. But that does come because we're probably quite resilient. Because we're quite long in the tooth to it now. Because you can't talk to people that way when you work for a company, because you've got HR protects them. We're talking about companies in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go and tell someone they're a dick.
No.
That works in accounts. You can't go and rant at someone. If you spoke to someone in another company when you've got a company badge on you, the way people talk to each other online, your company would be like, what on earth do you think you're doing? Yeah. You are bringing the name into disrepute. Stop doing it. Online, everybody's fine with it. It's
a bit like the Wild West, yeah. But you're going to get love and you're going to get hate. And Mitch Miller really helped me with this.
He loves to have people hate him.
Mitch Miller he comes with a watch at your own risk warning. I love him dearly, but not everyone is an acquired taste, right? Because he's very polarizing. So he's the master of the craft,
Yeah.
And he said to me, Helen, you can't have one without the other. You don't get love without hate. And if you've got loads of hate, you've got loads of love. So great. The worst thing you could ever have is no one caring.
Well, you can't have a whoosh on a roller coaster without the slow going up bit, can you? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing. Again,
can't be frightened of it. You got to embrace it.
But there's people's content that I watch and go, oh, no, not for me. But also I think you're brilliant though, because you're going to be exactly for someone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's it. So we've spoken about the personal side of it. You get those personal highs, you get that fame, and everybody likes being famous, and everybody likes a pat on the backs, and you get the boots and the little sniggers from the people behind you. Let's talk about, and again it come up, you had a phone call from your accountant and you had spoken to a liquidator.
Yes.
We're going to start at that low, because I like doing lows first and then like the high, right? So
that was a horrible day. I remember it.
Okay, so
pretty well still.
What had happened in the business or around it, as much as you can share, because I imagine there's some stuff that's not really for public consumption.
Yeah. I think
for someone that's always grafted and always pushed and always done quite well to the outside, what had led you to that day when you felt you needed to pick up the phone and phone a liquidator in person? Because that's a big step.
Yeah.
And as you said, we just said you're a fighter.
Yeah.
Right. So you wouldn't be like, because that's close to tapping out, isn't it? In
It's
some
close.
ways.
It's close. It's close. It was almost to see. So I tell you what happened in a simple way, if that makes sense. There's a lot of nuance to it, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
But we made a lot of money before COVID.
Yeah.
And I mean a lot of money. And we made it fast.
Yeah.
We were scaling so fast that if I was on the roller coaster, we'd be
whooshing.
G-force.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know what was going on. It was going so fast, couldn't see anything. It was just scale. Yeah. I was just like, it was a blur.
Yeah.
I was not equipped for it. I was not prepared for it. I didn't plan for it. And I don't have any financial acumen to deal with those kind of numbers.
Right.
I did employ people to help me. I feel like they let me down. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah.
So big money creates big tax bills. Yeah.
Yes.
And I love paying tax.
Yeah, because it's like a scorecard, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. The more tax I pay, the more money I'm making. I love paying tax. I built my very first business while I was still on benefits. So I'm a big, I'm as left as they come. I want to give back to the country that I'm in. I'm a big fan of paying tax and it being used, hopefully correctly, as best we can, for people who are less fortunate than others, right? And, makes the world work.
Hold the door open. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. However, what happened instead was that all of that money was spent, basically. And that was okay because there was more money coming. Yeah. So when you operate in a high level, you're making a lot of money, you spend a lot of money, you make a lot of money, you spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then what happened was COVID. And what happened in COVID is I made £1 million, right? In 2020. I think we all did online because everyone was like, let's all sit at home and learn and join communities. And I led that community through amazing times because at one point we employed counsellors because, it was a massive trauma. Obviously got all these entrepreneurs going through with uncertainty and it was really challenging, really, really challenging. And I just did what I know best, which is show up and serve. So I was doing back-to-back challenges. We're doing lives all the time just to give people routine and stuff to do. I also met Stu and fell in love and built a different life for myself behind the scenes. Yeah. And falling in love is very distracting.
Oh, so much so.
So distracting, right?
Don't recommend it for business.
But also there's a series of things that happened which I won't share with my youngest daughter. Yeah. Which were very traumatic and required my full attention. Yeah. So 2020 was like one of those years. Lots of ups, highest highs of falling in love and making $1 million, lowest lows of trauma and things happening with my children that I was out of my control but needed my focus. And as I kind of came out of that year, we have a spreadsheet which has defaults on it. Yeah. And as long as everyone's paying, it's green. And if there's a default, it goes red. And then obviously it goes into credit control or whatever. It was like a tsunami of red happened on that spreadsheet. It was literally as we came out of COVID and lockdown, all the people that had signed up suddenly didn't want to pay anymore. We had, and when I say record defaults, I mean, it was nonstop. It was, we can't pay this anymore. My husband's lost his job. He's not going back to work, whatever it might be. We've lost people. We've lost parents. I mean, God bless Gillian. The amount of traumatic phone calls she's had of people who've had real bad, I've seen a lot of the emails. I was getting a lot of DMs, just bad things have happened.
That was true for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, it was true.
But also, there's a lot of people that
I believe the good in people, but these are having really bad things: financial problems, health problems. Yeah, deaths, losses, like trauma, people losing their businesses. So why would they want a business support? People who are ill in hospital. It was just really awful. But that spreadsheet was like nothing I'd ever seen before. No. It went from green to red almost overnight.
And you can't just default on your commitments, can you?
We lost so much revenue overnight. It wasn't overnight, but it felt overnight. You know what I mean? I was kind of like coming out of this bubble of trauma with my child or my children, I suppose. Great joy of falling in love with Stu. Made a lot of money, as in
Yeah.
we thought we'd made a lot of money because everyone's on payment plans, not everyone,
Yeah.
but you know, majority on payment, to like we're in deep shit. And it almost it was like literally 1 minute I'm making millions and everything's great, and the next minute I'm like, this is not adding up, this maths is not mathing.
Yeah.
The tax bills are massive because they're all based 18 months ago.
Yeah.
My personal tax bill is massive because I've taken loads of money out because I was making loads of money. We're in deep shit, basically.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear was losing Stu's money.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get upset. Because when it's just me and the kids, then like I'd never had anything. So it was almost like everything I made was a bonus. Everything I did and everything I had was just like a party because we'd never had anything.
And you knew you'd be okay without anything again if you need to be.
Yeah. But Stu came into the relationship with something, you know, with money, with, you know, a deposit for this house, with, you know, a stable life. You know, he's always had a good life. He's always worked hard. He's got his own businesses. And I just thought, now we're married. So we got married in 2020. We got married in 2022. And it was like, you know, I knew we were getting married. And I thought, now that's the conversation I was having with my accountant. Was like, oh, well, we're this hugely at risk, you know, the business is now we'd had bounce back loans and you know, we had all this debt in the business. What happens? You know, what's the worst case scenario here? And the thing was, the truth was, the conversation was, well, they can come after the house and the money. It's not, you can't just say, you know, that's it.
Yeah, because you've got something.
Not that I wanted to say that's it.
No.
But it was kind of.
Well, it's smart that you investigated it, so you knew exactly where you.
Well, I wanted to know the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
And when I had the conversation that said, yeah, the house is at risk, and therefore the money Stu's put into it, and my other house is at risk. That's when I realised I had no choice. I had to trade through it.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't like I wanted it. I just was like, my conversation was, could I go to prison?
Yeah.
You know? I thought, like, is that the worst case scenario? Because the businesses had such great success, and then this huge impact of all of these things happening at once, and then the debt. And I thought, like, I was Googling, do HMRC send people to prison?
Yeah.
And what happens then? I thought I'd rather go to prison than lose everything that Stu's worked for all his life, you know?
Yeah. It certainly is harder when there's more than just you. And
Yeah.
We've had a conversation earlier.
And Stu never
taking
even knew
advice
any
from
of this, you know?
Taking advice from a single person with no responsibility in their flat that's saying, oh, entrepreneur is this, and stick it all on a credit card, because what are they really risking? They ain't risking a roof over their kids' heads. They're not risking their partner's lifetime of work. They're not, you know. So I think that's one that shows a lot about you, that at that time it wasn't my business and my brand that I've spent ages working for.
Oh yeah, it wasn't that.
It was like, there's a real thing. I also think, just to give you a couple of seconds just to dry your eyes. I also think that with that, people should realise that a lot of businesses that fail, that have to get wound up, they're often really good businesses. You know, they're often like stable. They've often got an audience. They've often got transactions. But sometimes there'll be an outside event or something that affects cash flow. Because you'd done a launch, you'd had these people commit to pay, and then all this stuff was happening, and it wasn't because you weren't delivering service. It wasn't because you weren't delivering anything else, but you weren't going to be able to get there. I live on the seafront. You know, where we live on the seafront in Southend, there's these businesses called the Arches. And I remember years ago, someone saying to me, if it wasn't sunny at Easter, their whole year could be done for, and their whole cash flow, and everything was at risk because it needed those few sunny bank holidays. Those early bank holidays had to be good. Like that's how they could predict the whole thing. And I thought, thank Christ I don't have a business that's there. But there's so much else. It wasn't that the food in the cafe wasn't good. It wasn't anything that they were doing. It was literally, if the sun don't shine, we're in trouble. Like we need sunshine on those things. And that period, there was a lot of great companies that lost, with cash flow that were run really well. I know of airlines where the cash flow went because people just suddenly started changing payment terms. Because the other thing is everybody starts panicking in those things. Everybody starts pulling up the drawbridge of their money.
A big knock-on effect for everybody.
Because no one, I would imagine, right, if you'd gone to a loan, as a lot of businesses did, like a normal bank for a loan, said, here's my business, here's what I normally sell, here's what I did last year. We're having this trading blip because of this temporary situation the country's in. Can you give me an overdraft or a loan to help me ride it through? Take my tax bill. I'm fine. I'm good for it. I'll run a launch and we'll get it next year. That'd be no. Because they don't want to give credit. And that's the other thing that gets harder. When there's those external factors outside, like you were going through, banks don't want to lend. They get scarier. Like when everything's good in your business, they'll give you overdrafts and loans throughout the thing.
I know,
So it's like when you don't need the money, everybody wants to give you the money. When the world's not tough, the world's really easy to give money. When the world's tough and everybody needs help, and these great businesses could do with being saving, it's not there. And there are some really great advice people out there, but that is, I hope no one else listening to it ever has to sit there and think, can I go to jail? For something that, it's not like, can I go to jail because something I've done's wrong or whatever. It's, can I go to jail because people have not paid me and I can't pay a tax bill? That is there. I mean, there's probably accountants going, oh, we should allocate your tax at the time.
This is it. That's
there's probably some Nigel with a pocket woman going, no one does that, Nigel. Back off. But Helen probably does now. Like, I imagine every penny that comes in of Helen's, the tax is allocated straight away after that lesson.
It's like,
but you learn a lesson.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Now we're back in the game. Your biggest high, well, actually, I imagine there's been a few. I imagine there's going to be that first time you launched that product, and that first time, and then your biggest monetary, or was it hiring? So tell me about the high the first time you thought, this works, I'm the nuts, the money's coming in.
I think the first £99 thing, I always say the first is the best. If anyone's ever had any addictions, you'll know that. The first time's always the best and you're always chasing that high. I think for me, the first time, there's a couple of early things that I remember. So the first £99 that I made for selling an hour of my time and knowledge was just unbelievable. That PayPal ping. Yeah,
it's almost like that first dollar that some people have on their wall.
It was just amazing. But I'll tell you what, a big...
Do you remember who it was?
No. I know the crew of people. It'll be someone out of Coffee with Dan, but I'm trying to think who it might be. Not sure, but the first time. And then the first time I did a group paid training.
Right.
So it was just a one-off. It was a webinar, but I charged £97 for it. And I got 20 people on it, I think.
Nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, and I remember jumping up and down in the kitchen afterwards because I just thought, I've just made £2,000 for an hour's work.
Absolutely. And when you're first stretching your consciousness like
that being possible,
that being possible. That stretch of consciousness, you do a lot more spirituality stuff now, or you're public about your spirituality a lot more now. And that stretch of conscious, I mean, I don't think I've stretched mine very far, but I've heard that there's a very kind of euphoric feeling.
It is.
When you go, oh, not just there's the money in the bank, but you suddenly get this ping moment of well, if I can get 20 people in that pay me 97, imagine if I could get 50 people in. Imagine if I, it's like you're seeing in more colours of the spectrum. Every time you have that stretch moment, it's like there's a new colour of the money or the business rainbow that you're seeing, which is why when you get to where you are now, it's so good to advise other people because you're seeing the whole spectrum, whereas I'm probably seeing the primary colours. Yeah,
but people maybe think, oh, I'm not interested in their first £99 sale or their first group, webinar. And it's I'm just as excited for them as I was for me. Yeah. Because I think it's almost I always wanted to say to them, really enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because now, I'm in launch at the moment. Someone's just texted me, how's it going? I'm well, I don't think we're on about 30 grand and whatever. And it's not the same as the first 30 grand,
Absolutely.
It's it's almost enjoy it because you'll never get these first early days back. And the first time you do anything, it'll never feel as good. the first time I launched my group program, I charged £300 for it. I got 9 people into it. And I just thought, wow, this is it.
Look at that smile that's going across your face.
But yeah, it's like,
and you just said, I've made 30 grand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
it's
just like my first program.
I always say, we talked about this in episode 1 of season 1, right? The first time I made my first million.
Yeah.
In a year. So the first time I got to $1 million in revenue in total was very exciting, actually, to be fair.
Oh yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that on like my Stripe account or something.
Yeah, like Phil Harrison was running the launch, and I remember him saying, like, if we get another 29 sales, then we'll hit $1 million in total since we started doing these launches, right? And I think it was the night time, because we used to close our launches at midnight. We still do, and we'd never done 29 sales in the last hour and a half. So I was like, we had like 90 minutes to go, and I was on the phone with a really good mate of mine called Danielle Mills, who's lovely, and I got her to FaceTime me. She was in the group because she'd done some copywriting for us, and
she's hilarious, isn't she?
She's brilliant. Yeah, I love her. So she was in the group, and the whole team were there, and we'd like, there's another one. We've had another sign up, and it was just, we were just really excited for everyone. Did I really believe we'd hit the $1 million that night? And maybe I did, because I said to Danielle, FaceTime me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted, and I think we've got the screenshot somewhere. Yeah. And I was single then, and I was on my own, and the kids were in bed, and it was just me. And I was like lying on top of my bed, and I think I'd brought a glass of champagne up with me or something, I can't remember. And we'd had a drink together, and we were watching him sort of roll in. And then when we did it, I just remember we were just like, oh my God, like FaceTiming each other. Like, she was just like, you just made £1 million from nothing.
Yeah.
From absolutely nothing. It's all you, basically.
You haven't bought coffee, sold coffee. You haven't bought, bought.
It's basically you and what you know.
Yeah, you haven't bought wood and built fences like Stu does. Do you know what I mean? You haven't done any of that. It's just like my brain spewing information out across like a load of zeros and ones.
Yeah.
That must have been
unbelievable.
How quickly were you able to go to sleep?
Exactly. I was just absolutely buzzing. But again, it's then Danielle, we cut the call off eventually.
Yeah.
And then you feel like,
oh, what's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just me. What's next? What am I doing next? And when I made my first $1 million in a year, I remember I'd sat and run the numbers on Xero, and it was across 2 businesses, but doing the same sort of thing. And I added them up, and it was 900 and something in one and 100 and something in another. And it made, you look at the numbers on your calculator, your desktop calculator, and it was like, oh, 1,100,000 and something. And I remember just thinking, I sat in my little office in the new house then. And I'm thinking, where's the fanfare? Where's the marching band? No confetti. My hair's not gone nice and boofy and big or anything. Well, yeah. Nothing.
Comes back to what we were saying, like in the freelancer of it. If you had done £1 million deal, or you'd generated $1 million, and you were working in like the corner office of something, everybody would be like, oh, well done.
Yeah, somebody be dinging a bell somewhere.
Yeah, or you'd be going into the boss and saying, can I have a pay rise, please? I've just hit my target.
Yeah, it's like, I've done it. I'm a 7, but my overriding thought was, all the 7-figure podcasts will want me on now.
You're a 7-figure wanker.
I'm a 7-figure wanker now, yeah. And it was true. And it did cross the threshold of interest in me. Once I could say that.
Is that the 2 comma club?
I don't know. It's something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I've set a goal and I've achieved it. And it was a little bit underwhelming, I've got to be honest.
Yeah. And by lunchtime the next day, you'd set your new goal. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, well, if I can do that, then what else can I do? But I think the more you go along the journey, the more you realise you can do anything. So you might as well just decide what you want to do and get to it. But I think in the early days when you don't know what's possible, and remember, I've coached and mentored thousands of entrepreneurs now. So I've seen it happen 1 million times with other people, not just me. But when you're sort of doing it on your own for yourself, and I was big into like I guess you'll remember the Warrior Forum.
Yeah.
Right. So I was deep in that in the day. And I used to read your Internet Cash Machine book, and I'd look at all the affiliate links, and I'd look at all these guys, the big copy guys and like the bro markets and that, who I love, by the way. They get a bad press, but I'm like, they're making a lot of money. Like we should be trying to learn from them, not like saying that what they do is not the way to do it. And I used to read all that stuff and think, how would that be possible for me? And when I'd found something that worked, then I was like, oh, now I can see how this is possible for me. And that the anticipation and the excitement of success is better than the success. I think, but that's quite well documented.
Yeah.
You know, it's the anticipation of achieving something is better than the actual achievement of it.
Yeah.
And I think I have swapped other addictions for the addiction of entrepreneurship for sure. And it's my all-consuming passion. So, of course, I love the game and I love the roller coaster. But also, I have to accept that the curse of the entrepreneur is you hit a goal, you set a goal, you hit a goal, you expect to hit your goal. You either feel terribly disappointed you didn't hit your goal, or you feel neutral that you hit the goal you set. There's not really that big.
No. Do you find ideal client attraction work? That's a lot more than your LinkedIn work in terms of alignment.
Yeah, it fills my soul on a way that I didn't know was possible either. Yeah.
Is that a lessening of the roller coaster because the financial outcomes are less important because you're doing work that truly matters to you? I mean, I know you always cared about the LinkedIn, so I'm not trying to.
No. But there's another level I didn't know was there. Yeah.
Does it amplify the roller coaster because you love this stuff so much and it's so important to you, and you know the power it can have, and almost wanting this to be out there in the world because you know how transformative it can be, probably matters to you more than if someone was just changing their LinkedIn headline.
Yeah.
So does it, if you're working with your ideal clients and you're doing this thing and you know that what you're doing really matter, does it make the journey or the roller coaster less or more, or is it the same but different?
It's definitely, well, I'm only at the beginning of this roller coaster, right?
Okay.
But this one feels like I've gone from Gulliver's World, which no one will know, which is like a little small children's place in Warrington, to like Space Mountain or something. Like it feels like a whole nother level of roller coaster that I know is going to have bigger ups and bigger downs, but I feel much more equipped to ride it.
Yes. So because you've ridden the kiddie roller coaster.
Yeah.
And trust me, from the last half hour that we've been speaking, that is not a kiddie roller coaster. I must admit there is that point of like, oh, I'd like to learn and have Helen's experience. I would much rather pay you for that experience than have to have those Googling sessions myself, like, to get that to be like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, and this is why people hire people, right? So if you're out there listening and people go, oh, why do people hire coaches? Why do people hire mentors? Why do they do it? It's because they might have been in a situation once where they are actually Googling, am I going to go to jail if I don't pay my tax? And then that lesson might be a simple lesson that in one of your coaching calls, they say, allocate all your tax first so you're not in this position. And then it saves you from being in that, from having those thoughts Helen was having. It could also be like, I did this and it won't feel as great as you want. So do something that matters, or do that, or make sure you have people around you when you hit that first million, because, you know, you need to reinforce the wins, right? The trouble is entrepreneurs are a nightmare at enforcing the wins for themselves or for other people. And, you know, it seems a shame that there wasn't a party, that there wasn't like wow, you know, like a turnover party.
Well, this is one of the things I've always wanted to start as a side business, like greeting cards for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It might be a thing, I don't know. But, you know, congratulations on your first launch. Well done for selling your first £99 thing. Well done for hitting your first million. Well done for, you know what I mean, doing a successful launch. Because we don't celebrate enough, do we?
Your first 500K liked video.
And then people do celebrate, and then people try and tear them down anyway. Yeah, so when I hit my million, the most common question I got asked was, how much do you spend on ads?
Yeah.
Which is just basically...
Which would have been a thought I would have had.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But what they mean by that is, it's not all profit, though, is it?
Yeah, but
which is why we did a whole episode on it.
But that's the thing, is like people want to pull it back down. I mean, and you are right. Like, if you think about the stuff you get congratulated for, like kids, everybody's had kids for fucking centuries. Like, it's not that hard, is it? Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to go through childbirth myself, but what I mean is, it's like that's a pretty low skill thing to do. Like raising kids, stupidly high skill. But actually having them, and there's cards and there's baby showers and there's all kinds of stuff and there's christenings. Like, I would be, like, if I was a woman and I'd had a kid and I'd made $1 million, I'd feel a lot more of a sense of achievement. Like, making $1 million.
Like, when
well,
people
say, because I'm not a woman, I'm saying that.
People say, like, oh, how much is net profit and how much is great? It's like, Well, how many millions have you generated from nothing?
Yeah.
Like the answer is
But
none.
the thing is, it's still
So
turning over $1 million.
it's still hard to do.
It's still a massive target, right?
Yeah.
And then the next target is to turn over
And make
$1 million more profitably.
Yeah.
You know, but you ain't going to get profit if you haven't got turnover.
Yeah,
'Cause,
exactly.
You know, you need turnover to get profit. And I think this is the thing, isn't it? Like, you have to look at the roller coaster, right? And be like, I want a piece of that. And
I'm
you're
getting
saying
on.
like about the Gulliver's World, small roller coaster, Space Mountain. Entrepreneurship is a lot like when we're choosing this roller coaster. Go to Alton Towers, people. Other theme parks are available, but if Alton Towers want to send Helen free tickets and maybe
I don't actually like roller coasters, but they can sponsor
host an event for us at Alton Towers. Dan used to host events at that.
An event would be cool, yeah.
Yeah. So if you go there, you get to pick the roller coaster you're going to ride.
Yeah.
Right? You can go on one of the really boring roller coasters with little bumps. Yeah. You ain't going to get so. Or if you're the kind of person that looks at those entrepreneurial coasters, I want that one with the 3 big loops, which
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be unconscious. My legs are shaking and I'm slightly scared to get on.
Yeah.
That's probably the one that you should be getting on. But not all people are made for big loopy roller coasters.
Some people always stay on the teacups, and that's okay.
Absolutely. But that's what it's like, isn't it? That is the roller coaster. And it's like you've just said, I've got off a run roller coaster. I'm like, right, I'm ready now. Here's the big thing. And for some people, we mentioned earlier, freelance to business owner. They've ridden the freelance roller coaster. They're ready to business. They've ridden the roller coaster of corporate and they've got everything they can out of it. So now if you go on the roller coaster too much, it gets boring, right?
Yeah,
there's no up,
true.
there's no down.
Yeah.
And some of your clients have probably reached that stage. They've ridden that roller coaster of the corporate life so much. There's nothing there for them anymore. It's not high. It's not low. It's just like, going around. Oh, I'm upside down again. That's why they go and pick a different roller coaster and they go, that's for me.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that all with us and our audience. And audience, you are doing yourself a disservice if you do not watch this one on YouTube. This is a...
Just for the crying.
I'm not sponsored by YouTube, but YouTube's better than the other
Please
platforms.
don't watch this one on YouTube because I'm not a very attractive crier
And
or sniveler.
we'll make sure in the edit, because I'll bribe him, that Mark zooms right in on the ugly crying that occurred. But also, not more than the ugly crying, Helen's inane grin when she talks about selling her first 99 product is something that totally doesn't match up compared to like the other amount she mentions with nowhere near that much of a smile. And that's kind of the journey you're on. And it's also the lessons that Helen can teach you, you know, and by following and listening to the next episode next week. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Helen.
'Cause these are the best days.